I'd like to welcome David Hvizdos, who is an incumbent on the school board now and is running for another term. Thank you for coming and talking with us today.
Oh, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Appreciate it.
I'd like to start off by asking what you think your greatest strengths are as a school board member.
Well, I've been on the board now for 9 years. I've been a member of this community since 1991. I had my law practice here since 94, and my kids both were raised here and graduated from school here. So I really have a strong tie to the community. I want to see it succeed. I want it to be someplace special. And I think that the years that I've spent working on all the different committees in the school board really gives me an advantage over a lot of other people that might be running for this position.
Do you have any particular concerns as you head into this new year or a new term?
Probably the biggest concern is how we're addressing the funding of the school district. And we fight that battle almost daily with the state. They give and take to our budget. But we're already looking at the possibility of asking for exceptions to raise taxes as much as 4%. We can't allow that to happen. We've got to work with the administration to keep our costs down so that we don't have to keep going back to the community and asking for more and more money. In the 9 years I've been here, the only time I ever voted for a tax increase was the year that the governor came in at the last second and pulled $1 million from our budget. We really had no choice. But every year I've tried to find ways to save money, refinancing our debt, making it easier for us to function. But we can't continue to ask the people in this community to pay more and more, or we're just going to be like Allegheny County eventually.
Is the problem this year the extra funding needed for the retirement, the pensions of the teachers, or what is the particular issue?
It's kind of an ongoing problem. That is, every year our contribution to the pension plan goes up into the foreseeable future, as do salaries, as do health benefits. We don't get any more money from the state, so we need to be more and more cognizant of where we can save money on an annual basis. Our budget actually has gone up every year that I've been here.
Mm-hmm. What would your priorities be if elected?
Well, I think we have a really special person in our superintendency right now. And I think we need to give her an opportunity to put her team together and build this district with her plan. There have been too many times in the past where we've been fighting personnel issues and getting too involved in the day-to-day business of this district. We have to give this superintendent what she needs to succeed, because from what we've seen so far, she can take this district a long way and improve it over where we have been over the last 7 or 8 years. And I think we have to give her that opportunity. We have to step back into our role as a board and not attempt to run this district on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm. What would you say is the main role of the school board?
Well, if you look at the statutes and the way that the state runs this, we are really tasked with creating policy. And we're tasked with hiring a superintendent and creating a budget. That's our most important function. But we also have to deal as a liaison between the teachers, the community, parents, students, and get that information to the administration. I don't think our job is to try to micromanage how those things are done, but when we're presented with concerns, we have to bring those to the district and work with the administration to say, this is how the community sees this. We would like to have you move in that direction. But on a day-to-day basis, that's not our job.
Well, you've actually segued into a question that I've heard from many members in the community. How does the public get input to the school district? Is it through the school board? And how can people be heard when they do have legitimate concerns? Not little things, but legitimate concerns.
And I think the best way would probably be to contact school board members directly and get it into the chain properly. But for years, we have had initiatives where every time there is a large issue or problem, we've had a committee. We had the long-range vision committee that was established when I was president of the board. Those findings are still on the website, so people can look at that and see what we thought 5 years ago. Right now, we have a committee that is working with the health education program and another committee that's working with the mathematics curriculum. So people are getting involved on a regular basis. We send out surveys all the time. We did one when we were hiring the superintendent. What would people like to see in that individual? And we got a lot of really good feedback. So I think there are a lot of opportunities for people to get involved, but if they feel like they're not being heard, they can come to the meetings, they can stand in front of the podium, they can express themselves like a lot of people do. But I think we create a lot of opportunities by those committees, and it has really drawn in a lot of people in the community.
How do people know what's being discussed in a particular committee?
Well, for example, the Long Range Vision Committee, we actually
Right,
went
that
out
one
and
is well known, I
we
think.
recruited people to come in on special areas. So there was one on curriculum, one on safety, one on buildings. So we tried to recruit people that were working in those particular areas. We've put that on the website. I know that Shelley Belcher does a really good job of keeping the community informed by blasting emails out there about all those sorts of things. So when a new committee is being established, and I believe there is the Comprehensive Planning for Education in the future, that's going to be coming about here soon, and she has been sending information out about that program already.
One issue is that the agendas are not really public until the very last minute, I think. Some community members have said, I didn't know that was going to be discussed at such and such a meeting.
And a lot of times, we're not sure of that either. There are
I know.
an awful
Things
lot
change.
of times we will come to the executive session beforehand and be handed a new agenda with changes. So we try to get it out there as soon as it's final. We sometimes will get, on our Friday packet, we will get a draft of the agenda. So we know generally who's going to be hired, what issues might come up, and things are going to be voted on. You would like to get that to the public, but if over the weekend someone is removed from a position, it's going to be an embarrassment to them that they were on and now they're off. So it's a fine line you have to walk. There are probably some of the things that could be made public, like just the general bills I think should be available to the public so everybody can see on a monthly basis where things are being spent. But anything that really has to do with personnel issues, we have to be extremely careful
Sure.
with.
What about funding decisions about athletics? How do you approach a decision on something that's going to be fairly expensive but is really focused just on athletics?
Well, I think you have to look at that as a big picture, and I know this has been an enormous issue this year, but we have a $53 million budget. Less than 2% of that goes towards activities and clubs and sports and salaries. So it's a very small number, relatively speaking. I think we have to make things available for all of our students. There are a lot of students that wouldn't be interested in coming here if we didn't have sports and if we didn't have all the activities that we have. But when you look at something like the fields, and the fields are a huge issue in this election, the way we've restructured our debt, those fields are costing us about $10,000 a year, because that money comes from the capital budget. And I had to laugh when I read one of the entries on the blog that says, yes, I understand it comes from the capital budget, but I don't care, it's wrong. Well, you have to actually look at the facts to determine whether it's a problem. So I don't really think that on a percentage basis we are out of line with what we spend. We make these things available to kids that may not have an interest in going to college, that they want to go to Western area, they want to play football, they want to be in theater. So if you don't have those things available, you leave those kids behind. And I know we have candidates that want to defund sports. We can't do that. It's not fair to the families that can't afford to pay. I mean, we already don't fund things like hockey, but the parents want to pay, they're able to do that. I think there's a lot of parents that their kids play football, they couldn't come up with $1,500 for their son to play football. So it's just not a reasonable thing to do.
Okay. I'm going to ask you quickly, do you think that we promote the use of the Western area courses adequately?
No, we don't. And it's a shame, because I've been on that advisory board for years, on the Joint Operating Committee. This past year, we had 15 or 20 students that went right out to $60,000 a year jobs. And they walked out with machinist degrees or welding degrees. They got a commercial driver's license while they were there, and they're well equipped to get into the oil and gas field. So they have immediately taken over jobs. And I think that it's going to come to the point where people here are going to say, that $100,000 for college is no longer a great investment when my son can get a job next week. It's going to be a change.
I want to give you a minute to tell the voters why they should vote for you.
Okay, thank you.
Over here.
I would love to have the opportunity to continue to serve this community. I spent years on the zoning board. I've spent years here with the school board, only with one thing in mind: to make this community a better place. I think all of our children deserve a well-rounded education. They deserve an opportunity to do well in whatever field they choose, and I think it's our job to make that a possibility for them. You're going to hear from candidates that make this election about nothing more than the fields. And if you want someone that will listen to a small group of people, do what they're told, and raise taxes, I'm not your guy. If you want somebody that will look at every situation and all the facts that are presented there and make a decision that is best for the entire community, I hope that you will vote for me in November. Thank you very much.